And back here is the spider room. It's not a big room. It's not a spectacular room as far as size goes, but there are a lot of spiders in here. I would say any given week I can have anywhere from 2,000 to 4,000 spiders in here. Each of these boxes that you see is a population of Mediterranean recluse that I've found in Florida. And I have to do the genetics to see how closely they are related. So like these two properties are next door neighbors. And this property and this property are back to back. So what I'm trying to figure out is, are these close enough related that these got to this house somehow? Because the native recluse spider populations, their dispersal behavior is very little to no dispersal, meaning when they're born, they don't go farther than 5-10 feet from, where they're born, unless they have to keep moving because there are more spiders there. But I'm not finding that with the Mediterranean. What I'm finding with the Mediterranean is that when I find them at a house, I find them at the neighbor's house. So I have two separate things I'm studying right now. One is dispersal behavior, to see if the Mediterranean recluse have a different dispersal behavior than their American cousins. Will they go across grass? Because one of the things that people don't realize is recluse spiders, they're not really big fans of vegetation, bushes. So, you're not going to find recluse spiders like living in your bushes outside or your garden or anything. You would find them in like a stone pile or a wood pile or something like that. But, they're not going to be out just like living in the middle of the woods somewhere. And over the years, they've become extremely synanthropic, which basically means they like to live with humans. And so our man-made structures have become perfect for the type of habitat they like, which is hidden away, dry. They're not big fans of moisture and rain. And, like I said, they love the crawl spaces of people's houses, the garages. So Richard Vedder, the world famous recluse spider researcher whose research I'm continuing, has done a lot of observational stuff, plus a few other scientists that have shown that the brown recluse, at least, they don't seem to like to go from one building to another. So if they do hitchhike to a home, it's very unlikely they're going to go from that home to the next door neighbor's house. But again, I'm not seeing that with the Mediterranean. Each one of these populations had somebody at the next door neighbor's house. So again, I'm going to do some genetics to see, are they closely related enough to be from the same population? And then I will test their behavior to see, will they cross large swaths of grass to go from one house to another? And if I can show from the genetics and from that behavioral study that, yeah, they will disperse out, then this means that the Mediterranean, at least, have a different dispersal behavior than their North American cousins. Which doesn't mean that they're going to be taking over the United States. It just simply means that if they are hitchhiked back to a house or brought to a house from the Mediterranean region, that they're more likely to disperse out to a neighboring property but they still don't disperse far. And unlike a lot of spiders, if anybody's ever seen Charlotte's Web, it's called ballooning. It's actually one of the things that caused a big stir with the Joro spiders falling from the sky, which technically is true, but isn't true. So the Joro spiders are related to the golden orb weavers. People call them banana spiders. They came from Asia. And yes, they can balloon, but as hatchlings, when they're very, very tiny. They come out of the egg sac, and I don't know if you can see this right here. But in here we have some juvenile black widows. So when these guys come out of the egg sac, what they're going to do, or they're trying to do, is they're going to climb up to a high spot. They're going to let a little bit of webbing go, and then whoosh, up into the air they go. And they disperse out most of the spiders that way. A small percentage of them will stay, but a great majority of them will balloon away. Now that's the same with the Joro spiders. So yes, they balloon away as hatchlings, but you're not going to have adult-sized Joro spiders the size of your hand coming down from the skies like parachutes or anything. So anyways, recluse spiders actually can't do that. They can't balloon. So the only way that they can get from one place to another is by moving on their own feet. So that's one portion of what I'm studying, is if they're coming to Florida, are they capable of going from one property to another, and what's the likelihood that they'll do that, and what's the rate that they'll do it at. And then again, these are all the populations that I found, and in each one of these containers, I have to keep letting them breed until I study their genes, which can take months. Just to get the genome from, one population can take 6, 7, 8, 9 months, depending on how much work I put into it. So every time I population I find, I bring them back and I keep breeding them. And so in each one of these containers, you can have hundreds of recluse spiders at any given moment, sometimes more. And then moving up are the widows from when I did my brown widow, black widow study. And again, we were able to show that brown widows, when they cohabitate with southern black widows, which are the ones right here, will kill and eat them, especially the juveniles and the hatchlings. They just don't want to share habitat with them. But other cobweb spiders in the same family, or other spiders that live in the same niche or habitat, the brown widows were far more tolerant of them, but not tolerant of the black widow. So if the paper gets published and we're able to continue on, I am going to study, instead of just the southern black widow, which is the species you mainly find here in Florida, I'll then move on and study the western black widow, which is, obviously out in the western United States, and the northern black widow, and see if we get the same results. When we put these two together, are the brown widows, targeting and attacking and killing the western black widows? Now, from observational data, from Richard Vedder and from other scientists, the brown widows are pushing out black widows out west. So at least from an ecological standpoint, it does seem that when brown widows move in, black widows move out. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean they're doing it through an aggressive behavior like what we're seeing with the southern black widow. It could be something else. They get their name because they're supposedly kill off their mates. Well, that's not really true. As you can see, I don't know if the camera can pick it up. Here's a male and here's a female. I put them together 2 weeks ago to mate. I'm pretty sure they've mated at this point, and now I'm going to put him with another female. So the whole history of the widow's name, because she, she's the widow maker, she eats her mate, is not necessarily true. And that's true for most spiders. If the female is well fed, she usually won't eat her mate, or if he doesn't annoy her. A lot of times, he'll mate and then maybe try to mate with her again, and she's just not having it, and she's like, all right, sorry, bud, you gotta go. Which is why I should probably take him out of here pretty soon, before she does eat him, because I need him to mate with a few others. So if you look at this black widow, you'll notice that there is a red dot near the back of the spinnerets, right there. Can you see the dot? Yes. So all black widows in the United States, when they're juveniles, have, red dots going along the back and white striping. And as they shed, they molt, they lose their juvenile colors. Now, this is Latrodectus matans. So this is the southern black widow. And what I've noticed is that with the southern black widows, some of them will keep their red dots on their back, but most of them will lose it. But the ones that do keep it will always have that red dot near the spinneret. Now this is only southern black widows, not the western and not the northern. So this would be more pertinent for people who live in Florida, who are trying to discern a dark colored brown widow from southern black widow is that red dot. You can see right here, the little red dot on the behind. And again, you're going to get her flicking her webbing at me. See? That's their form of defense, is get away from me, and they try to wrap you up. When widow spiders eat, they actually don't attack face first. They'll come in, they'll taste with their front legs, and they'll go, okay, this is food, and they'll spin around and wrap up their prey a little bit so it can't harm them. Then they'll go in and bite. And there was a study done on it and showed that they really only bit once grabbed or pinched. So now with the brown widows, the egg sacs and the lack of the red dot, because brown widows do have an hourglass. It's a little bit more of an orange color, but you know, you can get black widows with kind of a lighter shade. So now this is a very dark colored brown widow, to where it would almost be mistaken for a black widow because it's, you know, almost solid brown. But again, it doesn't have that orange dot or that red dot near the spinnerets. But again, that's only for the southern black widow, not the rest of the species. And the egg sacs. So the egg sacs are universal. You could do this with all species of black widows and brown widows. They're spiky, like little landmines, round and spiky. And again, here, round and spiky. So they all have those little spikes on them. That right there, see how it has a smooth look to it? Doesn't have that spiky look. Now, black widow egg sacs can be teardrop shaped or they can be round, but they tend to be more teardrop shaped. Here we go. Here's 2 egg sacs, and I'll actually take one out if you'd like. And you can see. So yeah, see they're a little teardrop shaped, but smooth, no spikiness to them. All right, so here we have Coccolochania hibernalis, which is the southern house spider. The males of this species are the ones that I find to be most confused for recluse spiders. Many of the properties I've gone to where people were very adamant they had recluse spiders all over their property, it ended up being these spiders. And honestly, even if you know about recluse spiders, you could still confuse a lot of their traits. They have very similar webbing. Their egg sacs look very similar. So there are other traits besides just the physical features of them that could cause some confusion, especially if you've seen recluse spider webbing before and you know what it looks like. So here is the webbing of a brown recluse. And as you can see, it's just flat and cottony and not really very sticky. And that is basically the same for these guys. They lay this flat cottony webbing. The only difference is how they splay it out like that. Now, I like to call these the ambassadors of the spider world because these are the ones I use to help people get over their fear of spiders. They are gentle little giants, and they actually make good pets. They can live 9-10 years. And so this is a female. So this is not one commonly mistaken for a recluse. obviously because of the black coloration and stuff. The males are tan and have a much smaller abdomen, and they also have this line that goes down the back of their carapace that is often confused for the violin mark. Now, I always tell people when identifying recluse spiders, there's a lot of things that go into it: eye pattern, size, the eye arrangement, and the violin mark can't always be used. We have recluse spiders here in the United States, like the desert recluse, that don't always have a discernible violin mark. So, and you have other spiders that have a very similar looking mark, which is where a lot of the confusion comes from. And as you can see, not the big bad spiders that everybody thinks they are. She's just crawling along. And I just kind of yanked her out of her home too. So, I actually think these spiders are very beautiful. They have this velvety look to them. And I don't see any males in here, which is unfortunate, because the males are the ones that people commonly confuse for recluse spiders. But if you look up southern house spider and you look up male, you can see plenty of pictures. But I'll see if I find myself a little boy in here. Yeah, there's tons of babies. Like here's another female right here. But I don't see any boys. The males are actually very big. These are just juvenile. The males are really small when it comes to spiders. There are actually a lot of species. The males are significantly smaller than the females. With these spiders, though, the males are actually quite big and get to be roughly the same size as the female. They just don't have the big fat abdomens that the girls have. And, obviously the ladies got the big abdomens because they are going to need all that room for all those eggs. And again, you can see these girls are just, gentle as can be. There's a different one. So, beautiful spiders. All right, so here we have the Mediterranean recluse. These are the spiders that I am the only recluse species I have found here in Florida so far from my research. And you guys are kind of in luck because this girl just laid an egg sac. So again, the egg sacs, to me, I call them little pimples. Can you move out of the way there, girl? Thank you. So yeah, they kind of look like little pimples. Just flat cotton with a little egg mass in the center. Now, the egg mass can be a little bit bigger. And, all right, so you don't want me near your eggs. So how about we go down here, away. Go, go, go. It's not where I wanted you to go, but it's okay. Yeah, stay there. And again, so, flat, disc-shaped with a little bit of an egg mass in the center. Again, if there's more eggs, it'll have a bigger bulge to it. Now, there are other spiders that lay similar-looking egg sacs, so don't think if you see that automatically it's a recluse spider, but they do have a type of egg sac that is, laid flat to the substrate, where some spiders have egg sacs that hang down. And there she is, hiding away. And again, not really big spiders. If you look, she's very tiny. And, this is a typical size for a female Mediterranean recluse. So they have very thin legs, smooth looking, velvety body. They're not hairy looking, and very fast. One thing I also want to point out is the 2-container system that we have here. So we keep these spiders, because they're not native and we don't want them getting out, in a 2-container system. So, this had weights on it. I took the weights off. And so we have to be very careful. Make sure there's none there. We gotta check here, make sure there's none there. Then check the lid. And this is why we check. If you notice, there's what looks like a big female and lots of little guys all on the ceiling here. Now I've put Vaseline on here to try to stop them from doing that. That didn't work. There's been very few things that I've been able to do to stop them from getting up. And they're also in here. So there's one right there. And there's one right there. So now what I have to try and do, don't go anywhere, is get everybody back in their home. Come on, you. All right, so in they go. Now we have the ones on the lid. If everybody could please go back into their home would be good. Ooh, give it a little. Vaseline's making it slippery. Almost everybody fell. Mom doesn't want to go. So I will just scare her back in. There you go. We still got a couple stragglers that don't want to go in, which is fine. I will put them in there. So in here, this is a population. And I have to keep breeding them, as I mentioned earlier, to eventually get the genetics from this population to compare them to other populations. But as you can see, this lab, we can have hundreds of spiders at any given moment. So if you look, here's some babies crawling and some babies crawling there, and lots and lots of spiders. So hundreds of little babies, all of these little babies here, all those little babies there. And this is just one little log. So again, here's a good example of what an egg sac looks like. This is a bigger version of the zit we saw earlier. And so at any given moment, each one of these containers can have hundreds of spiders in it. Here's another one with hundreds, probably close to 100, 200 newly hatched spiders. And this mom seems to be very busy. She has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 egg sacs that will be hatching anywhere between 50 to 100 spiderlings. So this container within the next few weeks is going to have probably 400 or 500 spiders inside of it. And that's just one container. So this is a little trick that I've learned. Recluse spiders are really, really quick. And first, I'd like to start by saying, no, I don't condone people holding recluse spiders. There are people I know in the spider community that have them as pets and they hold theirs. And, you know, that's their own choice. But these are also people who have had recluse spiders for many, many years and have other species of spiders and have become very good at holding them. So one of the things that's going to get you bit if you hold a spider is putting pressure on it. The bite experiment that I did, you know, the only way we could get the recluse spiders to bite was by putting pressure on their body. So if I'm holding her and I accidentally crush her, then she's going to bite me, or the chances of her biting me go way up. So mishandling them is what's going to get you bit. So yeah, don't handle recluse spiders. And me doing this is in no way condoning it. But again, I crawl under houses collecting recluse spiders where there are hundreds of recluse spiders and they are crawling on me and on my neck and on, you know, my body. I go into containers, which you'll see in a minute, with hundreds of recluse spiders, and yeah, they get on my hands. It's just kind of, it's part of the job. So, you know, I do this to kind of take the stigma away of these animals being these, you know, dangerous, you know, out to get you, gonna bite you and you're gonna lose your arm kind of thing. But at the same time, you know, if you're not an experienced person with spiders, and please don't be holding them, just simply because you could kill the spider, make a mistake, and get bit. Anyways, so to tire them out, because they are very, very fast, as you can see from her flying in this glass jar, I don't want them to take off up my shirt if I don't have anybody with me that could help me get them off. Oh, she's playing dead now. They actually can sometimes play dead. So if I can get her to move forward a little bit, she's almost like, nope, I don't want to. And there you go. The dreaded and feared brown recluse. Now, I'm being very careful with her, not to put any pressure on her, not to pinch her, and she goes up, nope, which is exactly what I did not want her to do. But as you can see, she really has no interest in biting me. She's not really happy about being on me. I can tell she just kind of wants to get off. And actually getting her off is harder than getting her on, because that's where I have to be careful that I don't pinch her or cause any harm to her that would make her want to bite me. So what I do is I offer her her home. You don't want to go to your home? And there she goes.